You're watching Bermuda Tonight. It's Monday, July the 8th, 2019. I'm Diane Brewer, and thank you for joining us. The Home Affairs Minister, Walter Rabban, has praised the work of the island's telecom and electricity watchdog, the Regulatory Authority. Mr. Rabban, who is also Deputy Premier, tabled the RA's financial statements in the House of Assembly on Friday, covering 2014 to 2017. Mr. Rabban taking the opportunity to reflect on the RA's two major evolutions since its founding, from a solely telecom regulator to both a telecom and electricity watchdog. He spoke to our Trot outside the chamber.
So it has become a dual sector regulator. It has had to do a number of things to deal with a lot of mergers and mergers of companies throughout the industry. We've seen Digicel and BTC. We've seen one communications chain. We've seen a number of transformations, particularly in the telecommunications sector, and the RA has had to essentially guide that in a new regulatory environment. So these are some of the achievements, and it's had to essentially evolve to respond and deal with these changes in the Bermuda marketplace, both in telecommunications and, of course, as we are now in the electricity sector, which it also regulates. It's now having to deal with a major transformation with the possible sale of Ascendant Group, Belco, to an outside player. So it has gone through, not only has it had to set up as a body, it's had to acquire the expertise, many of which are Bermudian, but it's also had to rely on a lot of international expertise to deal with some major transitions in our telecommunications and electricity sectors.
And the RA was back in the news recently when it put out a terse statement in response to an announcement by a company called Horizon Communication that stated it would launch 5G data services if its license application received approval. The RA in response expressed its disapproval, having told the company prior to their announcement that there would be no consideration to allowing 5G in Bermuda at this time. The RA said a switch to 5G would require a significant change in technology on the island. Tarai asked the Deputy Premier if he backed the RA's position.
Well, let me first say, there have been no new integrated communications operating licenses issued in Bermuda yet, but the RA is preparing to go through that process. That's one. So I don't believe any company that has been speaking that you refer to has a license as of yet. They are in the process of perhaps being prepared to apply for one. So until you have a license, you can't be offering any services. That's one. Two, the question of offering certain services, like 5G. Now, I think those who are observing what's happening in telecommunications around the world have heard a lot about 5G. Bermuda now has a very sophisticated telecommunications platform, and the regulatory authority, along with those who are licensed to provide that, have played a role in that. A number of companies have invested tens of millions of dollars with bringing fiber to Bermuda, to upgrading to 4G and LTE services. So there's been a lot of investment into Bermuda to advance us in this area, to make us a modern telecommunications environment. But I would clarify that moving to 5G, fifth generation 5G, is going to mean another major evolution in our telecoms environment. It is going to mean a whole new infrastructure to be set up. That means that all the infrastructure that has come in changes with 2G, 3G, 4G, LTE, essentially are now going to be moved aside for a totally new generation of telecoms technology.
In other news, the Premier has criticized the police for refusing to cooperate with special committee investigating that infamous House of Assembly protest nearly 3 years ago. It was in that event which saw demonstrators block access to the House of Assembly, resulting in police taking the highly controversial decision to pepper spray the crowd that later led to government settlements worth nearly $250,000. Premier David Burt last night called the police officers' decision to not appear before the Parliamentary Joint Select Committee probing the event regrettable. However, responding to the Premier's remarks, Opposition Leader Craig Cannonier is questioning the Premier's lack of testimony to the day's events.
I'm glad now that we finally have the results of the December 2nd committee that met to look at how we can avoid such an occasion happening again. It certainly was something that was egregious to all of us when we saw that people were eventually pepper sprayed. But yet, as I look at the report and I see the recommendations there, one of the things that stood out to me was, why didn't the chairman also include in his interviews the opposition leader, who is now the premier? Why didn't Premier Burt, why was the opposition leader Burt not called to give testimony as to what took place as he saw it on that particular day? Certainly through some of the videos that were out there, we could see that he was front line and center there, and he had a front row seat. So it would have been really, really important to get a scope of how he felt and what he saw and what was going on.
Coming up, a chance to speak with the U.S. ambassador to the United Kingdom during his visit on island, the latest weather forecast, and much more. Stay with us.
I got these for seasickness last week, and they're terrible.
That's strange.
I know. I put one behind each ear like you're supposed to, and nothing happened.
These are tablets. You're meant to take them with water.
I got this pump for my asthma. Hasn't changed anything.
Show me how you're using it. It's an inhaler. You're meant to breathe it in.
Well, this toothpaste? Definitely off.
It's a hemorrhoid cream.
Well, that explains why my gums are shrinking.
Every home tells a story. Your story is all yours.
Big kid, too cool. I make my own rules.
Wherever you live, whatever your style, express yourself.
My style says what's up. Don't wanna ever grow up.
So many styles to help tell your story and create your unique dream home.
We're gonna stand out, break away from the crowd.
Start shopping for furniture at U.S. prices today. Lifestyle Furniture is Bermuda's newest furniture store and is proud to be the home of the #1 furniture company in the world, Ashley Furniture. Visit lifestylefurniture.bm or stop by our showrooms today. Lifestyle Furniture, this is home.
Welcome back. Well, a crook who was jailed in the UK for stealing nearly $2 million from the Bermuda government has been ordered to pay back more than $820,000, according to Burnews.com. A court in Wales recently made the restitution order against former Bermuda government accountant Geoffrey Bevan, who is behind bars serving a 7-year prison sentence for the offences. Bevan, who is British, had been employed as the payments manager for the Bermuda Government Accountant General's office when he transferred the money to the UK before fleeing the island. The court previously heard that he was addicted to gambling and spent the money on houses across the UK and 2 Mercedes cars. The courts in the UK were able to freeze his assets, giving way for some of it to be repatriated to the island. He was also given a further 18 months of prison time after he was found to have stolen money from his own mother. In other news, America's most important man in the UK was today on the island for an official visit. Ambassador Robert Wood Johnson, who is the U.S. ambassador to the United Kingdom, is on island to meet with the governor, the premier, the opposition leader, and other officials. But many might be surprised to know that Ambassador Johnson, who also happens to own the New York Jets, also has family ties to Bermuda. Bermuda Broadcasting News had the pleasure of learning more about his visit. Mr. Ambassador, welcome to our shores. Have you been to Bermuda before?
Let's see, I came here the first time when I was in high school. So that was a while ago. And then I did 2 Newport Bermuda races. So I did the one in 76. It's a long time ago. But it was a huge storm. And it's a very famous storm. A lot of the boats got dismasted, or that means your mast came down. So it was very exciting. And fortunately, we made it and came into Bermuda, and it's just a great thing. When you leave Newport, it's a happy day, and then in between, it was very, very tough. Right. But arriving in Bermuda was the greatest. And I have a few relatives from Bermuda.
Do you really?
Yeah, the Dills and some others, and Michael Douglas is by marriage, is naturally my favorite actor, of course.
That's wonderful.
But so then I've been back, numerous times. I love Bermuda. Americans love Bermuda.
Yes.
I mean, there's nothing like Bermuda, especially where it is.
Yes, and Bermudians love America.
They do.
Yes,
They
yes,
love Americans.
yes.
And so with that, we should do really, really well together.
Mr. Ambassador, Bermuda values its important and long-standing relationship with the United States. How will this relationship change after Brexit?
I don't think it's going to affect the relationship at all. I mean, this is a very special relationship, both in security and prosperity, and that I know that's going to continue strong.
Nuclear energy and aviation will be just some of the issues Ambassador Johnson will be discussing with our leaders. Can you explain what specific bilateral issues are being discussed with Bermuda leaders this week?
Well, we're going to be discussing a lot of issues concerning aviation, nuclear energy. There are 13 or 14 continuation agreements that are pretty well along between the UK and the US in terms of getting business to operate as usual in certain areas.
There was a record $235 billion in global insured catastrophe losses from 2017 to 2018, and the Bermuda insurance market, as I'm sure you know, has played a large role in that, and portion of those claims, including a third of all the hurricane losses. Do you believe the U.S. administration recognizes the important role Bermuda plays in insurance pricing?
Well, I talked to some experts today, just recently, and they explained part of that to me. Now, it's a complicated, insurance is not my main focus, but I know it's important, and I thought that it's important for Bermuda itself to explain this to U.S. politicians and what value they add to the whole insurance landscape, and to make sure that Bermuda gets credit for all the good work it does, and it adds competition, adds balance, and it adds heft to the insurance market. And particularly now they told me that flood insurance is now a big thing. It's getting harder to get, and insurance that delivered by Bermuda could be a major factor in that.
We will bring you more on our interview with the ambassador in subsequent newscasts, so stay tuned for that. In other news, the Information Commissioner's Office has urged the government to consider implementing a robust and transparent framework for Financial Policy Council if the proposed amendments to the Public Access to Information Act come into law. The office issued a press release on the amendment bill, which seeks to place records held by the Financial Policy Council out of reach of the PATI Act. Jasmine Patterson brings us up to date.
The Information Commissioner's Office in a press release say they are aware of the bill tabled on Friday in the House of Assembly, which seeks to amend Section 4 of the PATI Act 2010. This section outlines records relating to the functions of these areas which fall outside the scope of the PATI Act, which means the information is exempt from the public gaining access to organizations that oversee other public authorities, judicial functions, and the provisions of legal advice to the government. The authorities listed in Section 4 include the Auditor General, the Ombudsman, courts and tribunals, and the Attorney General's chambers. The Information Commissioner notes that the Financial Policy Council does not fall into the above categories, nor are its functions and responsibilities outlined in any provision of law. It will be, they say, the first financial public authority whose non-administrative records are removed from the PATI Act. They add it is the Information Commissioner's view that records related to the financial and economic interests of Bermuda are already adequately protected under existing exemptions under the PATI Act, including Section 31. This section protects the disclosure of records which could have a serious adverse effect on the financial interests of Bermuda or on the ability of the government to manage the national economy unless the disclosure is in the public interest. It is the Information Commissioner's view that from a public access to information perspective, the proposed framework for the Financial Policy Council does not meet the same standards as the formal transparency governance frameworks adopted by other jurisdictions, including the United Kingdom. if the amendment bill is adopted as proposed. They say the Information Commissioner strongly urges that it be supported by a robust and formal transparency framework for the Financial Policy Council to ensure that the public's right to access information is protected. In jurisdictions such as the UK, they add records related to monetary policy or financial operations intended to support financial institutions for the purposes of maintaining stability are exempted from public disclosure. These restrictions are coupled with a formal transparency governance framework that ensures that appropriate information is shared with the public. End quote. Jasmine Patterson reporting for Bermuda Broadcasting News.
Thanks, Jasmine. Well, turning to weather news, increasing cloud and a chance for showers later in the week. Let's go to AccuWeather headquarters for the latest.
AccuWeather is presented by BF&M Insurance Group. We now go to AccuWeather headquarters.
This AccuWeather forecast on ZBM is brought to us by the folks at the BF&M Insurance Group. We've had a little shower or two here and there at the end of the weekend into early this week. Some clouds are out there. It's been warm. Last night we only got down into the upper 70s for our low, and we are locked into some very tropical air for a few more days. There will be a front that moves through, and that will have a little bit of a slightly less oppressive, slightly more refreshing feel behind that front, but it's not going to be a big change. You can see there is a lot of rain near the front right now. The front's a couple hundred miles to our north still, and because it is to our north, we're locked into this tropical air. 84 degrees, humidity is high, 75 to 80%. We have a southwest wind at 10 to 15 miles per hour, and the water temp, by the way, has gained a degree over the weekend. So since Friday, we've gone from 82 to an 83 degree water temperature. On the inside, we have 1 to 2 foot waves, but on the outside, there are 3 to 6 footers out there, and the waves are a little larger, so a small craft warning has been issued by the Bermuda Weather Service because of the more hazardous boating conditions here due to that chop, and that'll be in effect from late tonight through Tuesday morning. Low tide is coming up at 8:27, so the tide's going out for now. It'll come back in through the late evening and into the early overnight. Another low tide at 9:01 Tuesday morning, and high tide then tomorrow at mid-afternoon, 3:14 to be precise. So it's a breezy and warm night again. Another night in the upper 70s for lows. Not a whole lot of relief out there. The chance for showers will increase into the day tomorrow. Breezy with a mix of sun and clouds, and then shower chances increase into the afternoon. We'll be still warm and humid with highs around 86. So here we can see that front off to our north. It's going to get closer, being driven by an area of low pressure spinning away off to our north. And by tomorrow evening, there will be some showers in the neighborhood, but the core of the front will still be to the north until Wednesday afternoon or evening, and then we'll have a better chance for rain as it pulls through. But look out for thunderstorms if you're traveling to the south into the Caribbean and Jamaica. Barbados, scattered showers. Trinidad and Tobago looks nice with a partly to mostly cloudy sky and highs near 90. We're watching a disturbance that is drifting from the southeastern United States. At midweek, it's probably going to reach the coast near the western part of Florida, and that's going to marinate over that warm, humid water, the humid air and warm water of the Gulf of Mexico. That could become a tropical depression or tropical storm over the northern part of the Gulf of Mexico and move west toward Texas, so that's not going to be an issue for us. We're looking at a pretty decent setup, though, for summer-like weather in Toronto, New York City, into Boston. Scattered storms in the humid air into Atlanta and Miami, and London looks nice, 72 degrees there. So we have scattered showers increasing late Tuesday, and a good chance for showers and even thunderstorms when the front rolls through on Wednesday. Behind that, it will get a little bit less humid and drier beginning on Thursday.
AccuWeather was presented by BF&M Insurance Group.
This summer I was in Germany on holiday with my family, and on a whim one day my son and I joined a speed sliding competition, and as I came down the water slide I went straight down in the pool and whacked my left foot on the bottom of the pool, and I looked down and I didn't see a foot. I just saw the bones sticking out and I started to feel faint. I was ambulanced to a hospital where I stayed for 11 days and had surgery. I had snapped all the ligaments on both sides of my ankle. And in the middle of all this stress and pain, we thought, how are we going to deal with health insurance? How will we pay for this? And I got a response from Allison at BF&M, and she said, you're admission and surgery will be covered at 100%. I didn't have to put it on a credit card and deal with the reimbursement later. It made such a big difference to us. And for me, the BF&M difference is stress-free insurance when I really needed it.
And you are watching the Monday edition of Bermuda Tonight. Well, Bermuda has once again come in near the top of the list of the world's richest countries. But as Tony Waterman explains, there's more than meets the eye.
Over the weekend, a smattering of U.S. newspapers ran an article by 24/7 Wall Street. That's a financial news and commentary website. The report confirmed what most of us living here in Bermuda already knew. This little island in the Atlantic is one of the richest countries in the world.
It's not entirely surprising. When you live here for the past few years, you kind of get a buzz on the island and you understand that.
I thought we were higher, actually.
We do have such a high rental and cost of living that, we have to make a decent wage in order to survive here.
This particular report looked at a country's gross national income, or GNI. This measure tallies all economic activity within a country's borders, plus the net income it gets from overseas. Bermuda's GNI per capita is just over $68,000 a year. That places the island 6th out of the world's 25 richest countries, sandwiching it among the world's biggest petroleum exporters. This isn't exactly new information. Bermuda has ranked in the upper echelons of wealth reports for decades, thanks to the island's international business sector, which generates a lot of high-paying jobs. The median gross income in IB is just shy of $140,000 a year. Impressive, but many question whether that trickles out to the broader economy.
It's shocking to hear, at least, especially hearing the financial difficulties that other people living in Bermuda are going through.
To say we're the 6th richest, okay, that's wonderful, but on average, it's not. We have a certain percent that are above, and then we have a huge percent that's below.
It doesn't take much digging to see that Bermuda's wealth isn't exactly distributed evenly. According to the government's 2018 employment briefs, non-Bermudians have a much higher median gross annual income than Bermudians, in some cases by nearly $20,000. There's also a steep racial divide, with the median gross annual income for blacks and mixed races $30,000 less than that of whites.
I've been blessed to have a good job and I make good money, but for some of my friends and relatives, some of them have 2 and 3 jobs.
Maybe not every single person has the same income or lifestyle, but I think if you compare it to other places in the world, doing a lot better.
The survey also masks another hard truth. Bermuda may be one of the richest countries on the planet, but it's also the most expensive by far. Tony Waterman for Bermuda Broadcasting News.
Thanks, Tony. Well, we'll have sports news in just a few minutes. Don't move a muscle.
Guys, come on! Guys! Hey, guys! Oh my God!
Are you required to take one or more medications daily but have a hard time remembering when to take them? The Phoenix Tours can help with an MDS blister pack, a multi-dose packaging system that makes it easier to manage and take your medication. Each MDS blister pack contains medication for the week and is pre-packed, sealed, and labeled by a pharmacist. Prescriptions grouped by the day and the time of day you should take them. Take confidence in knowing you're using your medications as the doctor planned. Visit the Phoenix Stores to get your MDS blister pack today. The Phoenix Stores, for a better life.
Turning to sports now, President of the Bermuda Netball Association, Kamali Evans, is considering her options to run again for the fourth term. The BNA will be holding their annual AGM next Monday, and all positions are up for elections. Speaking on Inside Sports Talk Radio, Evans shared her accomplishments as president, improvements within the program, and the way forward in tonight's sports report.
While I'm going to say for right now, I'm still a bit up in the air to see exactly what it is that is going to take place at the AGM. The council have to meet in order for us to decide the pathway going forward, and we'll be able to better decide exactly what it is we're looking to do. Our under-21 team traveled and went to the USA Classic Tri-Series. That was with USA and Canada, where they came out undefeated. Our under-16s just traveled to the Jean Pierre earlier this year, where they competed and done well and handled themselves and carried themselves extremely well, and showed that, you know, we are putting in a lot of work here down in Bermuda to try to help to boost the sport, not just on a technical, but, you know, from a managerial and from a professional level. In order for us to go forward, we have to, you know, start thinking like the big leagues, like how the other countries and associations think. And that's definitely an area where we have to collectively come forward and agree, and not just look at netball as that recreational sport anymore, but a sport where we can do well, and we are doing well. We just have to continue to work together and be supported both financially, and we'll get there. While we have seen increase in players, we haven't seen an increase in clubs. And I think it's because, I mean, it's a huge, you know, obligation for someone to take on a responsibility to run a club for players from September to April, let's say. So, you know, unfortunately, we haven't. We've talked about in previous series of me being here that we're looking to do our Pee Wee League this year, which will bode well for the sport and bringing the players in a lot younger, as well as bringing back former players that are looking to give back in that way, you know, help out the young ones, and then just get them back into the pool and back into the fold of helping to continue to try and promote the sport. So we'll make a step towards that direction doing the Pee-wees, bringing in the older generation of players that are looking to commit to actually operate the league in full. So, and not a league, but more of a program, you know, to just get the kids just doing and loving the sport. You know, I think that once you get them from a younger age and they really start to have an appreciation and love for the sport, then it will continue to carry through for the rest of their lives.
I'm Michaela, and this is Taking Off. If you're an artist or know an artist, you might want to pay attention. With the construction of Bermuda's new airport terminal nearing completion, Skyport and Aecon are looking for artwork. We're looking for Bermudian artists to create original pieces of work for the new terminal, and through an RFP, have invited interested persons to submit their concepts by September 4th. We're seeking local artists to create and produce unique pieces to be displayed throughout the new passenger terminal building that are original, fresh, thoughtful, innovative, and bring awareness to the traveling public of the culture and arts community of Bermuda, evoking a Bermudian sense of place. The RFP invitation is open to all Bermudian artists working individually or in collaboration. Artists can submit as many concepts as they wish in any scale, scope, and medium, as long as the work is original and their personal property. Interested artists can attend a briefing session on July 18th at Bermuda Society of Arts. For more info, head over to our website, www.bermudaairport.com. See you next time.
We are the voices.
You are with the captain.
It's Mr. Midday.
12 new major news.
The big station.
The morning show.
The number one song.
The Faces.
You're watching Bermuda Tonight.
This is exactly what you're talking about.
What an upset it was.
The Storytellers.
They are actually using the pepper spray.
Police are aware of this theory.
The water is 3,500 meters deep.
The tax climbs up to 12.5%.
The window on our community.
We bring you the best in U.S. television entertainment.
And the greatest sporting events in the world.
A brilliant performance from Duffy.
We are the island's only Bermudian-owned broadcaster of both television and radio.
With the only TV channels that are available over the air in beautiful high definition, completely free.
We are always expanding.
We are always innovating.
And most important, we're always your station.
This is Bermuda Broadcasting.
Well, that's our newscast. I'm Diane Brewer. Thank you for sharing your Monday evening with us, everyone. Good night.